are back on the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast. My name is Jonathon Howe. He is Travis Cunningham. This is episode 70, brought to you by Bicknell Racing Products and Oshweekend Speedway. Travis, episode 70. What car number, what driver are you thinking with number 70?
The one guy in the 360 division that probably does the most with the least, other than me out there, is Bailey Hurd.
That's a good pick. I'm a little jealous that you took that. I'm a little offended. That's my guy, my Niagara Falls guy, but that's fine. It's totally fine. I will go with Dave McKnight, and I believe Dale Kern just drove that car at Humberstone. So that's all I can think of for 70s. I can't think of like a modified.
70s tough.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen one, but I can't figure out where. Or maybe I saw it at Brockville.
I know there is one out that way.
There's got to be other 70s out there. Otherwise, that's a number that's available in the modified world.
Yeah, because those two are connected. Because Bailey Hurd's dad crewed for Gary Morton, who owns the other 70. Dave McKnight just drove it. Now he's like slowly going into a crew chief role, kind of.
Yeah.
So yeah, connected 70s.
Well, I like it. That's a good pick. Good pick. We got through that one. We should probably got to start off with Super Dirt Week. That is where everything is at. We got to recap that. It was a week ravaged by rain. Yeah, unfortunately.
We picked a great year not to go.
I know. At first, I was like, I can't believe I'm not going down to Super Dirt Week. Like, I should be going down. I should be covering it. And then I was like, oh, it's Thanksgiving. I can't skip the time with the radio station and all that stuff. And then now I'm kind of like, well, kind of glad I skipped it.
Still turned out good, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was working the Monday when all the features were going on. So I was in studio trying to split my time between watching racing and watching everything else that was going on. But either way, it ended up being a pretty entertaining Monday, and a good one if you're a fan of Money Mat Williamson, as he swept both feature events that he was into. Where do you want to start with this? Should we start with the 358s, or do you want to start with the big blocks?
We can start with, you want to start with like earlier in the week at Weed Sport?
Oh yeah, we probably should talk Weed Sport first too. You're good, but that's a good point.
Weed Sport wasn't much. It was just like all features.
Mm-hmm. And this was a makeup race event?
Just one got rained out on the Labor Day weekend, or a couple weekends after the Labor Day weekend, right early in September there. And they just made up all the features. There's a couple B mains left too and sportsman heats, but yeah, it was mostly features. I forget who won the sprint cars. Was it Larry White? I think it was. Larry White, ESS. And then Eric Rudolph won the 358.
Yep.
So it was basically a Niagara region sweep of all the modified races.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah. Other than a couple. Who won the heat races in the 350s? But yeah.
I can get you that in just a moment, I think. Although I'm not seeing the results on their website.
Who won the sportsman? It wasn't Cody or Nelson Mason.
No, that was not. It was not them. I kind of thought that. The Weed Sport one was kind of like one of those. How do I say this? It's not that it didn't matter, but it kind of almost was like, I don't think there was a lot we could take from that going into this week, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot less satellite races now at Dirt Week. Mm-hmm. Like back early mid 2000s, or all like it would always be like every night. It would be like Wednesday Can-Am, Thursday Brewerton, Friday Rolling Wheels, Saturday Rolling Wheels would usually have like the World of Outlaws and a Win and You're In show for the big blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now they cut it down. There was only going to be Brewerton on Wednesday this year, and then they had to add that extra Weed Sport.
And you mentioned Brewerton. I feel like we should jump right into that one. I actually have the results for that one right here in front of me. So it was the Billy Whitaker Cars and Trucks Presents the 30th Hurricane Harvey event. The Sportsman won by Zach Sobotka, who every time I see that name, all I can think about is the guy who didn't want to show up to the Buffalo Sabres in that trade the one time, but I think there is no connection there.
Who knows?
But
Yep.
Well,
Who
speaking of
else?
the
I don't.
sportsman, I wanted to point out that our local
Gets the
guy,
top
Cody
10 in the
McPherson, was
sportsman, yeah.
fourth.
And Nelson
And
wasn't in the top 10?
no, our guest for later in the show from Kingston, Jessica Power, got a top 10 as well in the
That
Dot
girl.
Foods Dirt Car Sportsman feature event on the 4th.
Nice.
Billy Bleach Jr. 19th, Taylor Vanderzan in 21st. Nelson Mason, I think he crossed the line inside the top 10, but was DQ'd, unfortunately.
For what?
I don't see what exactly he
I don't
was
remember
DQ'd. I'm
hearing
just
that.
looking at just the results, not the actual write-up of the story. Let me see if I can
Gotcha.
find that quickly. But did you watch any of the Brewerton stuff?
No. I was at darts, so I missed most of that.
Yeah, see, that was one of
Watch
the
the
events
rest
that
of
I
it.
missed too.
Yeah.
But it's
It don't matter.
well, I feel like Brewerton actually was the kind of race that did tee up stuff. Like that was
Brewerton's
where it started
an
to
awesome
build the
race or a place to watch a race.
Yeah, it really built up a little bit of something for me, you know. I really really enjoyed watching the highlights of it going back. I thought the racing was pretty good from there. Shout out to the Super Dirt Car Series for actually, and I think it's just Dirt's YouTube channel because their highlights come in clutch when you don't go back and watch the races in full. So that is always helpful. And I was watching, and I was like, man, I actually wish I tuned into this race. It looks like the track was pretty racy, kind of.
Yeah. Well, that track is racy. It's like a reverse Merrittville.
Yeah, right.
3 and 4 is the sweeper. 1 and 2 is the super tight one. They call it the D-shaped dirt demon is its nickname. Merrittville's D-shaped as well.
Which is like the
And
most
apparently
badass name.
I did read an article back when Stan Friesen, when they reshaped it, Stan Friesen, and I forget who his partner was at the time, when they reshaped it, they were trying to go for a Brewerton kind of thing. But it's just in reverse.
Well, I think mission accomplished because I had both tracks put on great racing and great results. I'm just trying to get the 358 modified results up from.
I'll tell you who won.
Yeah.
Ronnie Mat Williamson. 4 in a row. He's won that race 4 years in a row.
Which
I did catch a little bit of their feature. I think I just caught the end of it, like the last 6 laps or so.
And it's funny that Matt has won this, but then well, you know, we're going to get to this, but it seems like, you know, he's got all the success in this one, but then he can't follow it up at Oswego in the 358 until this year. So, I don't know what I saw. I don't know what was different, but he definitely figured it out. He got the win over Jordan McCready, Matt Capera, Felix Roy, and Mark Johnson was the top 5 in that one. Trying to see if there's any of our local guys. I don't think there was anybody else of note locally.
One of that top 5, I like young guy Felix Roy. He's going to be really good. Felix Roy.
Felix Roy? He's a French guy?
Quebec. Felix Roy. Yes, sir.
Okay.
From Quebec.
I never know anymore.
Going to be good.
There's too many
His dad was
Roys
Martin
and
Roy.
Roys.
Big time dirt mod. His dad actually ran like Xfinity. I'm pretty sure it's his dad. Remember Martin Roy?
Yeah, I do actually. Now that you say that,
that's his kid. That's related.
Huh? It's like McLaughlin too, right?
Yep, exactly.
So
McLaughlin did a lot better in the Busch Series, his dad, than Martin, but he was
racing
there.
Is contagious.
Yep.
So Matt wins that one. He has all this momentum. I feel like, you know, going into Super Dirt Week, he had the momentum, but
this happens all the time. This is Matt's time to turn it up.
Well, how much does the weather zap any momentum that anybody's building? Because we were talking on the preview show that we thought this was like Stuart Friesen's time to shine. Now, obviously, that Truck Series accident he had at Talladega probably kind of screwed up his good mojo a lot. But for Matt, I was kind of like, okay, let's see what you got.
Stewie was still fast. Like, now he's no slouch up there. But, yeah.
Just a really quiet weekend for him.
Matt's always fast at Oswego. He just had never won the small block race. And now he has. But like you said, it didn't really kill his momentum because Brewerton was Wednesday. And then qualifying and heats were Thursday. And that was like the only good day that they had to get qualifying and heats in for the week. And he rolled it into that. Got quick time in the small block, second in the big block, and then won the heat race for the small block for $1,000. And I still think they could have got all the heats in Thursday night.
Yep.
That's just my own opinion.
Yeah, I
But
should point out
then,
that Matt's heat, Matt wins it over Matt Shepard second. Our boy Dalton Slack, who's also going to join the show a little later on, brings home a top 3, and Stuart Friesen was 4th. So
that heat was loaded. Had Shepard in it as well, and all our local guys were all in the same heat.
Brad Rouse was in that heat. Dave Flanagan Jr., one of our local guys. Gary Lindbergh, who I didn't see
I
what
told you.
happened. Did Lindbergh have a problem? He ended up 21st after starting 6th.
Oh yeah, that was wild. Because apparently he clipped the wall a little bit and damaged the rim, and the bead lock tore right off the rim, and tire went bye bye. Yeah, because when it zoomed in on, they didn't really catch a replay, but when they zoomed in on him on Dirt Vision, yeah, the tire was gone.
And of course, we are talking about the 358 heats from Thursday night, so we should point out the other winners. Zachary Payne gets the win in the 7Z, probably 7Z technically, but I'm calling it the Z. I always will. Billy Dunn, Mark Johnson, Tim Sears Jr., and Tyler Meeks, your top 5 in heat number 2. And Eric Rudolph gets the win in heat number 3 over Mike Mahaney, Anthony Perego, Jackson Gill, and Tim McCready.
Yeah, big story there for Zach Payne. Big heat win for him real fast, but then because of work, he couldn't come back Monday.
Oh,
that was rough.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah, win your heat, starting outside pole. So that was like one of his really good breakout runs. He has a win and stuff, but that was like, yeah, he was really fast. And that car's the Mike Payne owned car that like Danny Johnson's famous for a bunch of wins in it. And Gary Tompkins drove for him as well. Rudolph had a stint in it. And even Mat Williamson drove it a few times. Stewie as well. So yeah, that's a pretty famous car. And Mike Payne's kid's now taking it over. And they were dang fast at Oswego. Sucks they had to leave.
Yeah, it definitely sucks. Following that up, so everything gets rained out basically Friday through Sunday, which leads to a full-on
Friday through
party
Monday
of racing on Monday.
Yeah,
that started with the 358.
First time they've ever had to use the Monday of Dirt Week.
Yeah. Well,
I know that. I know they said that.
Initially, people were talking like they weren't even going to get the show in on Monday, and they were going to have to come back in November after the World Finals. So I'm glad that we did get what we got in. I know it kind of sucks for some fans, but I still think it's better than nothing, right?
I'm pretty sure there's been like 2 times where Dirt Week didn't run on the Sunday. The first one was one of the very early ones, and in the 70s, and it had to be held over till like the next April. And I believe Buzzy Rudeman won that one. And then 2005, that's where people got talking about the November thing. Because in 2005, it did happen. Sunday got rained out, and they had to move it. World Finals didn't exist then, so it got moved to like what was now the World Finals weekend. And Billy Decker won over Todd Burley.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of concerns.
Day.
A lot of concerns about the track. People were worried that it was going to start coming up with all the heavy rain and everything else that was happening. In terms of that, track held up pretty well.
Wrong.
It was a little bit rough, which we did see.
It wasn't really that rough. It was just like heavy at starts, but like it packed in pretty nice. There was 1 ripple out of 4.
And I think, well, I don't even think it was really a ripple that got Max McLaughlin. That was kind of the wow moment of the 358s at first, was seeing Max almost put it out of the ballpark. I think he kind of just bounced it in on entry to, was that 1, I believe, or was that 3?
Yeah.
That was 1, right?
1.
So he bounced it in there, kind of flipped, and then
took a hard. You almost went out of the park.
It was a real tumble. Like, if it wasn't for, I think, that high part of the overhang of the fence, I think that's kind of what kept him in it, right?
Yeah. Now, at that point of the race, lap 2, there was quite a bit of, like, it wasn't rough. It was just like the cushion formed up. It hadn't been blown off yet, and he just got into it a little wrong way, and Mike Mahaney got bit by it later on in the race, same kind of thing. But then it did blow out perfectly, and then the cushion was just against the wall.
I'm pretty sure we saw something similar happen to the Too Cool at Maryville this year, except it was in a heat, and same thing, because the cushion hadn't been blown off yet because it was early in the night, and it was a heavier, tacky track. So it happens, man.
And the cars are just generating a lot more bite now.
Yeah, exactly.
Left side panhards and the coils.
So salute to the troops. 150 goes to, for the first time, Mat Williamson in the 358 modified. Gets the win over Anthony Perego, Mark Johnson, Stuart Friesen, and Jimmy Phelps. Your top 5. A couple other notables we should probably make note of. Eric Rudolph, I should say, 6th. Matt Shepard, 7th. Peter Britton, 8th. Billy Decker, 9th. And Dalton Slack rounds out your top 10.
Dalton Slack was definitely the story of the race until the mid-race break. He was up to third. He had fell back, but then he was one of the ones that could get through he could run the cushion real hard. I watched Mandy Pouch's video, and Mike Mahaney literally said how he was watching the 3RS hit the rough stuff pretty hard and get through it, and then that's where he thought to do it on that restart when he had to start on the outside. But like the 3RS could get through it, and Mahaney obviously could not. And so she was rolling pretty good, and just the way it went, where they started counting all the caution laps. I asked Bob on Monday, I'm like, what would you have done different? He said, not really anything. And I was like, maybe not pit. And then we kind of argued back and forth. He's like, well, Jimmy Phelps pitted and only finished fourth. I'm like, yeah, but it wasn't 10th. And I think maybe if Dalton didn't pit, he could have had the podium, because he just got screwed on the restart when he lined up after that, because those cars that didn't pit were ahead of him. He lined up like 7th on the inside and got sniped a couple on the restart and then had to fight back. But yeah, that's the cool part about those long races. That's why I kind of hate that. I like and hate that the radios are gone. I like it that like mid-race, Anthony Perego also found the cushion, and he drove his butt up there and drove around Matt. And if there would have been radios, Williamson would have known Perego was coming to switch his line and block him. Or maybe he would have let him, who knows? But like, I'm just saying, because like he had no clue Perego was there. And he did end up, Perego led a while, and then Matt, like the top did go away after the break as well. Like the top was going good. That's how Dalton got up to third. Running the top real good, like I said. And then that's part of it too. I think afterwards, the middle to bottom started to come in a little bit more than the top was before the break. And yeah, Dalton still ripped off top 10. I was proud of him.
Yeah, it was awesome to see.
Matt gets the win. Yep.
So was that his first start in the
first
Salute
crack
Troops?
at Dirt Week? Yep.
So top 10 in your first start. That's pretty great accomplishment for a youngster. Should also point out local Brad Rouse finished 34th after not being able to complete the race after starting 28th.
Where did Rudolph finish in that one?
Rudolph was 6th.
Yeah. So Rudolph was running good as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's a local. There's no doubt Rudolph's a local.
Yeah, he is.
Can't not call him.
Ransomville standout, right?
I watched him race go-karts at Maryville every single Tuesday for years, so that's those locals you get.
So, with all that said, I think the impressive part was kind of like you mentioned, that Matt did lose the lead and then go back and get it. And the little group chat I was in, it kind of, everybody was doubting him. Like, again, I didn't really say much. I was working, prepping breaks to talk about stuff on air, and at the same time watching racing. And it seemed like a lot of people, or maybe it seemed like the general consensus was that like Matt was in trouble and might have found a way to lose another one. But instead, he gets it done. He gets back by Perego and gets the win. With the win now, I have to ask the question, where is Mat Williamson rank among the all-time greats in 358?
358.
Just 358. Never mind the big block stuff. Never mind anything else. Don't talk to me, like, just straight up 358 racing. When you think of a 358, where are the numbers? Because it seems like I think he's won pretty much everything there is to win big races.
To me, I think he's won more in like big, like he's all more of his accomplishments are big block and like SST style motors over like a dirt car 358. Because back in the day when he did follow, he used to run the tour like mid 2010s. And I think Rudolph beat him for the championship 2 years in a row. So you'd almost say Rudolph was the better 358 guy back then. But Matt's, all his accomplishments are in the big money races. So it's hard to say. And there's like so many 358 guys that are awesome, like Pat O'Brien, Danny O'Brien, Alan Johnson, so many 358. So I'm not even doing that.
You're not taking the bait? Okay, fine.
No.
All right. That's fine. Well, let's move it on then. Let me see if I can grab the.
I was pumped he won though.
What? Sorry.
I was pumped he won.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's always nice when the local guy
like,
that we're all proud
let's
of
just
goes
say
and
this
represents and kicks butt for us, right?
Yeah. Like I watched Glenn Stiers win King of the 360s at East Bay the time I went with Krutchka. Like normal on weekly, I'm not cheering for Glenn Stiers, but at East Bay I jumped so hard I fell through the bleachers. Literally the board broke. So it's funny, or like Pete Bicknell back in the day when I raced modified. wouldn't want to see him win at Maryville, but at Syracuse, I was cheering my guts out for him. Like,
Mhm.
just you always want to see the locals do good at that kind of stuff. So, yeah. I forget what I was going to say after that. Well, you can't say about you making me rank Mat. I'm not doing that, but I will say he's a dirt car Hall of Famer. I guarantee it at some point.
Definitely.
It's pretty much already there.
All right. Next thing I guess we got to grab is the Sportsman. Let's jump into that because they immediately followed. Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to ask you is what did you think of that? Not what did you think, but like how did you feel about the layout of having the 358 into the Sportsman into the big blocks? Because I almost feel like I don't want to say it did a
You had to
disservice.
do that.
You have to
A
do it that way.
disservice.
Well,
You had to do it because so many guys were running both.
I know, but doesn't it feel like the Sportsman do better? Like I feel like the Sportsman
Did
almost
you
should have
want
had the track first.
Then you just got to have I think so many teams had to go get their other cars like outside of because the way the Oswego pits work, the pits are out behind the back stretch, and then you have to like wheel all your stuff into the infield, no trailer. Like literally after the 200, because of all the wrecks, there was dead carcass cars just laid everywhere. Like it looks like a modified BRP cemetery in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the main thing about that.
Well,
Ideally, you run the 200 first. Is that what you're thinking? Or Sportsman first, 200, 358s?
that's kind of what I was thinking, but
Honestly, the way they did it is like I didn't see the schedule, and that's the way I thought they would do it.
all right. Well, I just feel like it could have been a better, or I feel like we could have got a better race. That's all I was thinking. I just wondered if
It was
the
still a good
Sportsman,
race.
it was still decent. I just feel like they could have got a better race out of it. I don't know.
Man, you're harsh.
I am. Either way,
Super Derby at the mile was a lot of follow the leader.
it was. That is true. That is. Everybody
Especially
I talked to
358
this
race.
week was like, for what it is, Oswego put on a pretty good show, all things considered. So.
It always puts on great racing. I thought the racing was pretty banging, especially the big block.
Well, we'll get to the big block because I agree. The big block race was pretty fire, but now you're gonna have to help me with the last name because I forget how I heard it on the broadcast. Mat Jensic?
Jancic, yep.
Jancic. Okay, that was close. Mat Jancic gets the win over Nicholas Root, Zach Sobodka, Richard Murtaugh, and Jessica Power, who represents us well with the top 5. Nelson Mason brought it home 9th on borrowed shocks. Should we talk about that? Nelson Mason and the 35
We'll go on that
team.
quick, yeah.
Awoke or showed up to the racetrack on Monday to find that somebody had stolen the shocks off of their race car.
And apparently, like all the nuts were missing off the radius rods and stuff. Like I don't know who needed lock nut. I don't know. That is so weird.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I bought. Open trailers are cool and everything. I agree, and like people can see them going down the road. I'm totally on that bandwagon as well. But when you're doing sleepover races, that's literally the reason I bought my enclosed trailer, so you can lock it up.
Yeah, absolutely. I would expect that that might be, if it's not in the team budget already, it's going to be something they're going for in the not too distant future. James Friesen with a 12th place finish. Cody McPherson, who lent shocks in parts to Nelson Mason to make sure that he could get out to the racetrack and race. He ended up 15th in the 7M. So it's kind of crazy. Cody McPherson pointed it out on social media. Went from what? Pole to having to win the B main to get into the show this year, right?
Yep. It was all when track got a lot faster. He went early. So many. When there's 86 cars, it's a crapshoot. So yeah, he still got one to B main this year instead of the feature. Yeah, that's the way it goes in Sportsman.
And now he's one of your B main buddies.
Yeah, B main winners. Although that's not him. He's an A main winner.
Yes, he is. But
this main thing about Jessica Power, I want to say about her run. She was running second. We'll talk to her about it. But then she clipped the inside wall and was still able to hold on to 5th with an ill-handling car and a flat left front.
Mm-hmm.
And I read an article where she was feeling real bad about it, but like she can't really feel bad about it because I'd say at least 10, 15 other people did the same thing. So
yeah, it was really impressive, like you said, to be able to hang on to that one and get the win or get the top 5, right?
Yeah, and this is the one thing we can't forget about the Sportsman race because there was drivers. Even Cody said on Facebook, but and Sobodka said it after the race, just how it kind of sucks how dirt car cut their laps. It was supposed to be 75, they cut it to 50, and they counted every single caution lap, so they only got, I'd say, Sapadka said 10. Cody said 30. I'd say it was closer to the 25 to 30 green laps. So that's just tough because like the
And
day ended at 4:30 anyways. Like it was pretty early. Could you not spare the extra 30 minutes to at least? I get cutting them to 50, okay, but to make them count caution laps on a 50 lapper.
that's why I
Oof,
said
that was
maybe they should
rough.
have gone. Maybe they should have started with that race and started it earlier. Maybe they should have gone after the big blocks. Like I just feel like they kind of got
There
victimized
was
by that schedule, but time crunch for sure, like you say.
our friends that we know in the Super Duck Car Series might get a little mad, but there was definitely wasted time on Thursday where they could have squeaked in the extra heats for the big blocks and the sportsmen. Because imagine going there and just time trial, and then you don't get a heat, and then you line up, and that would definitely be tough.
It was tough. You mentioned we've been leading up to it. Let's talk the headliner, the 200 lapper from Super Dirt Week 51, won by Mat Williamson, who gets it done over Max McLaughlin, Mike Mahaney, Matt Shepard, and Stuart Friesen. Your top five.
So Matt won, so that made my prediction, or it wasn't really a prediction. I just said if Shepard, Williamson, or Friesen didn't win, I'd be shocked.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not shocked. Matt won. The other two were in the top five.
Mm-hmm.
But our two of our dark horses, I said Mahaney, third.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe you said McLaughlin.
I did.
Second. Two guys that wrecked in the first, or Mahaney didn't really wreck, but he ruined his race.
Yeah.
And McLaughlin wrecked, so both those boys definitely turned it around.
Well, I saw him go
Love
for
to
that
see it.
wild ride, and I was like, "Oh, great! My bold prediction. I just like announcer jinxed him. Like he's not going to be able to even run now." But yeah, no, he had a great showing, and at times it kind of seemed like McLaughlin might steal this win away from Matt.
Randy, we were talking at break, whatever day that was this week at work, and he even said like they were worried big time in the 88 camp because Matt was slowing down, and he even said in his interview how he wasn't that great at the end, and it was showing for a while. And it almost, McLaughlin got within about a half second, maybe 0.4, 3 in close to Matt, and then there was a yellow late, and maybe Max some with his tires on because Williamson pulled away after that for the last whatever that last run was. But doubled up, money Matt.
Yeah, double down. How impressive is that feat too?
He's only who's only ever done that to sweep the weekend. It was Matt Williamson now, Matt Shepard, Danny Johnson, and Brett Hearn were the only ever people to do it. So 4 people.
It was pretty awesome to see him get that done. It's been a crazy year for Williamson, but that's one heck of a way to go out on top, at least for this portion of the schedule. Still World Finals to come.
He's still got racing left.
Well, there's one thing else I wanted to talk about is based on what I'm seeing, I haven't 100% heard this confirmed, but I'm pretty sure it's locked in at this point. The double points were taken away from Super Dirt Week this year.
Yes.
Which
taken away.
Doesn't really help with the points standings, unfortunately.
No, but whatever.
Matt Williamson still trails Shepard 72.
Yeah. 72?
72.
Yeah, that's going to be tough.
Yeah.
But Matt runs better at Charlotte, like I said, than Shepard usually.
This is true.
Matt almost swept it. Last year was 3 races, Williamson, and Mathieu Desjardins, who doesn't even have a ride anymore and retired.
Canadian sweep last year of Charlotte.
Yep.
And that is what's left on the Super Dirt Week calendar.
Ooh. The one other cute little stat we thought of at lunch the other day is since Stuart Friesen won his first Super Dirt Week Big Block Feature 200 in 2010, till now, 13 years, there's been more Canadians to win it, or Canadians won it more than an American. It is, what is it now? It is 8-5.
8-5.
From 2010. Stewie's got 5, Matt's got 3.
2 drivers carrying the mail, but you never know.
Yeah.
Could be somebody new joining those ranks soon enough, right? I wanted to point out too, actually, before I get too far ahead of myself here, some of our other Canadians that were in the big block event. Dalton Slack started out 7th, ended up 21st. I believe had a flat.
His race, yeah, we'll talk to him about it, but fell back to like 18th, got back to like 7th, got a flat, and then couldn't find the handle after that. So we'll see what he says.
And Gary Lindbergh started 15th, ended up 23rd. Was running at the end, but I believe had a shock tower fail on him, I believe was the report I heard.
I did see them chaining something up now that you mention it.
So
yep.
Either way, he had some suspension, some front end issues that ended up kind of ruining what was a hard charge because it sounded like, or at least from what I saw, it kind of looked like he was really not threatening to be in contention, but I thought he was moving through the field pretty decent. So let's roll on to that. Kind of wraps things up. Charlotte's left on the schedule. That is November 1st. That's when all that gets going. For those who want to keep up with the Super Dirt Car Series and all things dirt car. We should probably get to the High Limit Series because that wrapped up this week as well, this past week at Lincoln Park Speedway.
Yep.
Rico Abreu gets the win.
Abreu.
I know. What did I say? I'm saying it like the baseball player.
Abreu. Yeah.
Rico Abreu gets the win over Tyler Courtney, Kyle Larson, Kerry Madsen.
It's almost like Boyu. Oh, man.
Oh, don't start with that. Kevin Thomas Jr. rounds at your top 5. Kyle Larson gets the championship by 7 points over Rico. You were joking at the break when we were talking at work that Kyle just needs to start tailing the dash every time he makes the dash.
That's not an unreasonable request, in my opinion, because like he is the GOAT of sprint car racing. He makes Paul Silva look really good. Paul Silva's a good crew chief, no doubt, but Kyle Larson makes him look really, really, really good. So did Shane Stewart. But yeah, so because that was perfect on Tuesday night at Putnamville, or Lincoln Park as it's called, in Putnamville, Indiana. He just drew bad, spun out in the dash. Track was kind of locked down at that point. Started 7th, so we had to watch him go through the dash, and then you have to watch him at least come from 8th. Like, I'm not asking him to start tail and then start tailing the feature. I'm just saying, if you truly care about the entertainment value of it and not just cleaning out the money, start tailing the dash every single time. You make the dash, you start 8th.
I don't think that's overly unreasonable, but
especially now that he has his championship with it, and
it's like a championship fine. The champion every
it's
year
not even
needs
a
to drop
fine.
back.
Like me personally at Epsiode, I'd go back to handicapping and have the redraw. And like if you won the feature last week and make the redraw, you have to get the last one. Yeah.
So
yeah, I would just do that because I love watching Kyle Larson win, but I hate watching him win from the front row.
That's fair. You got to see him. You got to have a challenge a little bit for one of the,
especially when you own the series and you're the GOAT.
Yeah. Speaking of that,
that's the main part.
Speaking of owning the series, the High Limit Series, they've a couple posts on social media. They're kind of bragging, kind of talking about putting a little extra cash into the sprint car world. And by a little, I mean a lot, as in the tune of $1.1 million extra dollars flowing through the sport. The High Limit Series is over, the first year of it. How do you rate the success of the High Limit Series?
Started out rough. Not rough, but like earlier in the year, if you look back, there was definitely some hiccups. Like, remember the time when Rico, it was coming to the white flag in the heat race. He thought he saw the checker, and Kyle stopped on the track and gave like a fiasco there. Alex Bowman got hurt. They hurt someone in the very first race. Just a bunch of weird stuff happened. And then the double file restarts were weird at first, I think. Like, I remember the very first race with the choose cone. Like, I watched everything that happened at that race, and then when we did it last weekend, I made sure to tell Clint, like, let's not make mistakes they made. And then, like, ours was pretty flawless for the most part, other than we didn't have a cone the very first night. But, yeah, so there was the double file restarts, but then it turned out great. And then they slowly picked it up and haven't had much. It's just turning, and they're just, yeah, I want to see if they buy the All-Stars to put heat on the Outlaws like they're saying. I thought it was funny that they spelt racing wrong on their trophies. If you zoom in on the pictures, it says High Limit RACNG champion.
I think that was either corrected with other posts or that was proven to be fake news. We talked about that in
no way, I saw multiple pictures.
Yeah, I think it was either an edit or somebody went back and photoshopped it. So if you saw it spelled the right way, that might have been a Photoshop correction, but I'm not 100% sure either way.
I think they did mess it up for sure. Yeah, but yeah, that's funny. And then the ring was really cool, and yeah, but like, yeah, there's so many of the best guys in sprint car racing couldn't run it. That's the weird part.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that's probably going to keep up next year because the World of Outlaws is probably, I don't want to say scared, but it will be interesting to see if maybe in the offseason, if there's any kind of joint partnership or takeover of the All-Stars between high limit and what Brad and Kyle are doing with that series. I could see it happening. I could also see it not happening because you don't
There's
necessarily
been
need to
splits
buy the All
before.
Stars.
Yeah, but true.
Like,
You would just
what's the motivation
it
for
would
Brad
help
and
because then
Kyle
you
at this
don't
point?
need three though. You don't need three series out there. That's the whole thing. Because like people were saying they were going to do both the All Stars and High Limit early in the year. A lot of people, and some people did, but a lot of them fell off too.
Mm-hmm.
Gets to be a lot, and yeah, I have no idea. I just know there's definitely drama coming, like around PRI time in the sprint car world in the 410s. I can just feel it.
We'll see. We'll see how that pans out. You mentioned the sprint car world. We should touch on a couple locals who hit the road being a part of the Great Lakes Super Sprints. They were racing down at Waynesfield, Ohio this past weekend. Ryan Turner hit the road and started fourth, ended up finishing fifth in the A main. Nick Sheridan, our boy, won the B main and moved up through the field, gaining 7 spots from 17th to 10th. And Liam Martin started out in 18th and ended up finishing in 17th spot, so a little increase for him as well. But good to see some of our Oshweekend regulars and some of the 360 favorites around these areas still out there on the road.
Yep, and I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but DJ Christie went as well. Had to give him a shout out, but his night didn't go well. He flipped in hot laps.
Yes.
His night sucked, but he was there too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was tough. You hate seeing that, but glad he was okay about that.
Oh,
So.
yeah. Nick said the track scared him a little bit just because how, like, I never blew me away when he said that. He's probably going to be mad at me for admitting it on the show, but yeah, just because how choppy it was. And he said the banking feels way more in the car. He said it felt like 40 degrees. And yeah, it sounds like fun.
It's almost like
But yeah, it's narrow down
Bristol
the
or
front
something.
stretch too. Yeah, those Ohio tracks are definitely pretty gnarly. Pretty much every one of them.
If you're looking to catch the racing bug and keep it going, you're hearing all this talk and you want to get out to a racetrack still, in Ontario, we do have Brockville running this weekend, Friday, Saturday show. The final points night for the Sportsman is on Friday. Dirt Car Pro Stocks, Vintage and Mini Stock Invitationals. The STR Midgets and Modified will have practice and a fast time shootout. $500 to win that. And then the Saturday night is Ogilvy's Auto and Fleet Triple Crown Dirt Car 100 lap Modified Series Championship. The Dirt Car Sportsmen are running a 50 lapper championship event. The vintage cars, the SOS 360 Sprints, also going to be there for their final points night. Street stocks, all that gets going at 5 p.m. So still a little bit of racing in Ontario. I know it feels crazy today was a really nice day with the weather. We're recording this on a Thursday in the Niagara region. But yeah, Travis, you're not going up for the 360s, but it should be a great final night for the SOS.
I'm thinking lots of ESS or a few ESS guys are, and yeah, all the guys that have been. I think Dylan Westbrook leading the points, so him and Ryan Turner, I believe, second.
Yep. Yeah,
it's just going off my memory. So yeah, final points for them, and Mat Williamson's leading the Dirt Car 358 points going into this race. And Port Royal canceled; they had a big 53,000 to win SS Short Track Super Series race. It got canceled early in the week, so now Matt can go to Brockville and chase 10 grand there in the Dirt Car Championship.
Yep. So there's still racing left on the calendar, and I'm excited about that. One more. I'm not going to go up myself, but I really enjoyed Brockville.
I've been to this race before.
If you're thinking about going up, I say go and check it out. I really enjoyed my time at Brockville, going up there for the Super Dirt Car Series earlier in the summer. Had a lot of fun, and yeah, go and support Brockville. It's a great track, great facility. I really enjoyed it. So, want to talk to a regular. Oh, you got one more thing before we get to our guest.
You're forgetting your own thing that you brought up.
Oh, yes, that is true. I am forgetting one more thing before we get to our guest. I just want to thank everybody who's tuned into the podcast, because after last week's episode, or I guess before we aired last week's episode, we officially crossed the 10,000 download mark, which is pretty cool stuff. And I think it works out to somewhere around, we average like 150 episodes. Usually during the actual season, we're peaking between 250 people per episode listening, sometimes more than that, which is great depending on the guest. So thanks to everybody who's been along for the journey in this past 2 years. More exciting stuff to come. an off-season project for me is to get the YouTube channel going. We got some other creative ideas that we're going to bring to the table. But thanks for being with us, part of this journey, and looking forward to the next 10,000. And I guess the best way to help us get to that 20,000 mark, tell a friend. Tell somebody who you know that is into racing or maybe thinking about getting into racing that this is a great show to get started, and share it around and help us grow this awesome show. It's been a blast doing it thus far. Thank you for tuning in, for caring about racing in Southern Ontario. I think that covers everything. I think that's what all I wanted to get into.
Nailed it. Thank you, everybody.
And with I know we're talking about the end of racing season. We still cover some racing in the off season as well, even when there's no dirt tracks open because there's snow on most of them or anything like that. Don't forget about the BRPI Racing Series.
Oh, yeah.
Schedule dropped today. We'll probably have, I'm assuming we'll have Beefer, Corby Daniels on to preview the season ahead when they start getting closer to that. I think our media day, their media day is November 13th, if I'm remembering that correctly. So stay tuned for that, especially if you're interested in iRacing in the virtual world. And great little blend of not just local talent from Southern Ontario, but we even get some American guys who like Adam Hilton, Gavin Isley, names that you probably saw at Super Dirt Week as well.
Yep. I have fun doing it every year. And the main fun for me is, like I say, always in the Discord, getting to talk to all those people that I see. Like I watched Gavin race Sportsman this week, and that was fun. And yeah, who else is in there? Jasenbowski and Reiser and all those U.S. guys.
Yep.
Ryan Susi, I don't know if he's running or not. I know there's an Axton Strong 60. That made me happy when I saw that. I think the second race of the year.
Yeah, that was cool.
For Susi's boy. That's cool. And yeah, I can't wait for that.
Can't wait. Well, we're having trouble connecting with Jessica Power. I believe she is actually at Brockville ready to race this weekend already. So we'll wait till she's got some better internet reception. We'll connect with her and try to get her back on the show to talk about her performance from Super Dirt Week in the not too distant future. But right now, let's head to catch up with the driver of the 3RS, Dalton Slack, after his first ever trip to Super Dirt Week. And it was a pretty successful one at that. The Southern Ontario Dirt Show is brought to you by Bicknell Racing Products. The last 40 years plus have seen Bicknell Racing Products grow to be an industry leader for racers and enthusiasts alike. Their St. Catharines location is home to 20,000 square feet of manufacturing and retail space, with a second store in Niagara Falls, New York, and a dealer network that continues to grow day by day to serve Southern Ontario, Western New York, and beyond. Bicknell Racing Products distributes Hoosier tires for much of Eastern Canada, New York, and even parts of Pennsylvania. BRP has everything you could need to keep your car performing at its peak, with genuine parts from the manufacturer. They even have a technical support line committed to helping you with the most up-to-date information and feedback from racers and crew chiefs. Have you ever thought about a career in the automotive or racing industry? Now is your chance to take the leap with Bicknell Racing Products. They are looking for CNC machine operators, welders, and more to join their team this season. Please send all resumes to Dana Curving at BicknellRacingProducts.com. That's DANACURVIN at BicknellRacingProducts.com. For further information on Bicknell Racing Products and to find a dealer near you, visit BRP online at www.BicknellRacingProducts.com or on Facebook or at twitter.com/BicknellRacing. The Southern Ontario Dirt Show is brought to you by Ohsweken Speedway, Southern Ontario's home for Friday night excitement. For over 25 years, Ohsweken Speedway has promoted and played host to sprint car racing with a new season of family-friendly events on the horizon. But first, we celebrate the 2023 season with the Night of Champions 2023 Ohsweken Speedway Banquet, happening Friday, November 17th. Doors open at 5 p.m., dinner is served at 6:30, with the awards ceremony scheduled for 8 p.m. and the dance beginning promptly at 9:30 p.m. Tickets start at $50 per person, and the event will take place at Carmen's Banquet Center, 1520 Stone Church Road East, Hamilton, Ontario. Race teams looking for full tables for the banquet need to contact Tina Stiers at 519-770-9268 or tinamstiers@gmail.com. To keep up to date with the latest news from the track, be sure to find them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. For track information on policies, admissions, directions, and more, be sure to visit ohswekenspeedway.ca. That's OHSWEKEN Speedway.ca. Ohsweken Speedway, your home for Friday night excitement. And joining us now on the Southern Ontario Dirt Show, coming off what was I would say, a pretty successful first ever Super Dirt Week behind the wheel. Dalton Slack, welcome back to the show, buddy.
Thanks for having me. I haven't been on since I think last year, so it's good to be back because it means I probably did something good. So it's good to be back.
I would say you did more than something good. You had two pretty solid performances between the big block and the 358. Just talk to us first and foremost in general. How did you enjoy that first experience? I know obviously a little bit shortened in terms of weather and not getting the heat races all in and all that. But what did you think of your first Super Dirt Week behind the wheel?
Um, it was good. It was as much as people say it was shortened, it was actually lengthened because we stayed there for about a week just because of the rain. So it felt like we were there forever. Um, but other than the weather, you know, on Sunday they got 3.5, almost 4 inches of rain, and the track turned out beautiful. So first and foremost, I can't say enough about the entire World Racing Group and Super Dirt Car Series group for getting that track um, in mint condition. You know, there's a couple bumps, but nothing too crazy. And but other than that, I think my performance was good. I was not gonna lie, I was nervous. The whole week was like nerves were pretty good, but I think after we timed into the small block race and locked ourselves in, I think the nerves kind of just went away a little bit and felt a little bit better. And then the big block race timed in technically sixth, but we were tied with Eric, so it was seventh. So I think when I got my time trials done and I knew that I had some speed, I think my nerves definitely went away a little bit.
All right. So, where are we going to go with this? Talk about your time trial laps first, because, yeah, your line was just perfect. Talk about the running the practice and then going through with your old man, figuring out the setup, and then hitting the 2 time trial laps, because that was the key to your whole week.
Yeah. So the small blocks, like for practice, I kind of just went out there first couple sessions and kind of just rode around, and we had good speed, and then the last few they put so many cars on the racetrack that you catch the back of the field so quick because there's 20 cars out there, so it's hard to get a real good gist of what the race car's like. But I thought we had speed, and then time trials. As much as everybody would like to say for the small block, the only people who know is me, Tim Sears Jr., Zach Payne, and Derek Webb. That they said it was rubbered. It wasn't rubbered. Uh, the sun came out and it got the track real hot and it cleaned off real good. And I think personally, you know, all of the cars that timed in there were just really good race cars. And nobody's a slouch nowadays. So um, we went out there and timed fourth in the small block, and I felt really good in that. I knew our small block program was a lot better than our big block program just because we haven't raced the big block much. Um, but I knew that both of our programs were good, so small block was really good, hit my line really good, can't complain about that. And then rolled out there for big block time trials, and I think I left a little bit on the plate. Um, Little Brian and DJ from Integra told me that I think I messed up my time trial laps. I tried something a little different in the first lap that I shouldn't have. They said that if I didn't do that, then I probably could have timed that top six, but it don't matter. We were still seventh quick out of 80 race cars, so I really can't complain about that at all for being our first time.
Yeah. I agree with the shot guys on that one, because I watched your big block lap. They showed you perfectly in 3 and 4 when you tried that different line. I was like, ooh, that ain't it. And then you got it down for the next lap and went tied with Eric, your borderline teammate, for P6. So that was pretty cool. And then just tell us about the heat race. You only got one of them in, and you had a hell of a run in the heat, too.
The heat race, as much as everything on, like, I always tell people on TV, everything looks better on TV, but I felt terrible in that heat race. And I know that I still finished third, and we had a stacked heat race. And I tend not to look at the lineup because if I see people like Stu, Friesen, and Shepard, I get myself all spun out. So I didn't even actually know who was in my heat race. And the first like 10 laps, I kind of was just riding around because I never really got like a full string of laps together. I had like 6 practice laps and 6 time trial laps. So I kind of rolled for a little while and just kind of followed Maddie's line, and we got into some dirty air, and I find the dirty air there is like a big part of it. Um, so as soon as we, kind of got the field stacked back together after the caution, I kind of figured out a couple of things, and then Shepard got by me, and I followed him, and then I think the track actually did start to take some rubber, so we kind of just followed each other. But I mean, we still finished third to those guys, so I really can't complain at all. I think that was a good um, learning curve, getting those 20 laps in before doing the Ironman 350 on Monday. So I was happy with it afterwards. I can't complain.
You mentioned the 350. I was just gonna say you mentioned the 350 on Monday. Going into Monday, what is the longest amount of laps that you would run behind the wheel of anything in a race car?
It would have been the Outlaw 200. A couple years ago, we made 135 laps before we lost brakes. So that was probably the longest. Was 135.
So now you're like tackling that marathon, and what's the extra strain you feel? Because you're a young kid, you're still not even you're literally
just turned
approaching the
20
prime of your career. You're
during
just
Dirt
turned
Week.
20. You got so much road ahead of you. How did you physically handle that much time in a race car on one racetrack on one day?
Um, I won't lie to you, my butt hurt a lot. Like that's a long time sitting in that race car. Like we finished the 150 and we came in and they might have gave us like 10 or 15 minutes and then we were loading up to go back for the 200. Um, but like you said, I'm young. I'm full of energy. So really, when you get in situations when you're racing with Matt Shepard and Anthony Perego and Friesen and all that, I think the adrenaline just takes over. I really think that just the racetrack isn't very abrasive on your body. Like it wasn't really rough, and it's not like a high speed track. So those slick tracks are a lot different than them hammer down racetracks. Like if it was hammer down like it was in Saturday's Last Chance, I think all of us were in for it because it was really fast on Saturday.
Yeah. So now the race. You fall back a little bit in the small block to start, and then before the break, you wheeled it up to third. And then I said the same thing to your dad. I'm going to ask it to you. What would you have done different after the break or during the break?
I thought about this a lot. I think one thing that we should have done, we just kind of ran out of time in the pits. I think I couldn't see because I was in the race car, but I'm sure we were making adjustments to the rear shocks, and we didn't put a new right front on, and that place tends to really like ground tires just because of how slick it is. So, kind of just, maybe a new right front, maybe a couple of adjustments, and probably just driver experience, right? Like, all those guys have 5 more years on that racetrack than I do, and I know we only go there once a year, but those are long races, and those guys race long races every year, and they're just really good at endurance racing. And I think I maybe just got a little too crazy at a couple points. I should have just slowed myself down and just trying to get through traffic. There was a couple of guys that started up front that didn't pit that kind of held us up. Like Shepard and I tried to get by this one guy, we couldn't get by him for forever, and I think that just allowed the guys behind me to catch up a little bit and get by me.
That's the one thing I said to your dad too. Is in hindsight, because they were counting caution laps, maybe not pit, and I think you would have been on the podium because you got it. you had to go on the inside for the restart, and you were rolling the top, and then you got pinched down there. So maybe not pitting would have worked too.
Yeah, I think our car was good enough. Like, we could have made it on fuel. Now, I'm not saying we could have been in the podium, but I think we could have finished a little bit better. We definitely had a really, really good race car, and I think as the racetrack gained character, I just figured it out a little bit more. And that one restart before the break where I made a couple of moves and got up to third, everything kind of just worked out, and Stu was running the top and Mark Johnson was on the bottom, and how they restarted was flip-flopped. So I just kind of knew in my head, I said, if I can get a run on both of these guys, then, you know, I can get by them and get some clean air and try to track down Maddie and Perego. But those two were just kind of in a league of their own for those races.
Yep.
Certainly seemed that way, but like you say, it really did seem to be a track position race. But it's encouraging to hear that you guys wrenched on the car and it felt like it came to you. Let's get into the Super Dirt Car Series event, the big block stuff. First and foremost, when you started that race, did you have any more confidence than you might have any other time because you had just been on the racetrack with the 358 and overall had a pretty solid run with it?
Confidence-wise, I would say, yeah, I had a little bit more confidence because I just did 150 laps, and I raced with the really good guys, and I thought, well, if I could do it in the small block, I'm sure I can kind of back it up in the big block. Um, the only thing that's really different is horsepower, so the very first restart, I thought I was in my small block, and I put it to the floor and spun my tires like an idiot, so I made sure I didn't do that again. And it was just that big block racing is just a whole different animal. As much as the track is slick, it's all about finding the brown and making sure that you have a balanced race car. And I really think that our race car was good. Um, we did fall back in the beginning of the race. I think we were as far back as like 18th. I was just trying to run the middle and try and clean it off a bit, but I just didn't think it was clean enough. And then the big one happened there in three, and then I finally got the middle cleaned off enough. And um, coming out of four, there was like this really really big bump, and everybody would hit it, and it would upset the race car enough where I could roll on the outside. And then I think we went from 18th back up to 7th. I think it was.
Yep.
And and then we just kind of kept rolling. I think that was another situation where it was like, I kind of wish we stayed out maybe till like the 125 mark. I don't know if we would have made it on fuel, but I thought our car was coming to us again, just like the small block race. I feel like the longer runs we were really, really good on.
Yep, that's what I thought too.
So you have the longer run, like you say, and then obviously you drove back up to 7th. Was it flat left front? I'm trying to remember
right,
what
rear.
got you in there at the end that kind of brought you to the end.
So yeah, after that caution, we started 7th, and then kind of made a decent move to try to get back to that middle just to keep rolling. And there must have been a piece of debris in the bumps where I was kind of rolling through, and it cut that right rear down. And I don't know yet because I just washed the car tonight and I haven't scaled anything, and Dad hasn't scaled anything, but I don't know if it maybe spun the bird cage or maybe hit the coil nut, spun the coil nut to, make your load all weird. But the car was just never the same after that. And we went back to the back, and it was it's just chaos when you're back there. I told somebody, I said, I'm glad we time trialed good, because if we had to start that far back, it's just chaos. Like, you could be racing with the best guys back there, and they're still going 3 or 4 wide, and up against the wall, and all the way on the inside berm. And so I felt like every time that we tried and made some track position, I felt like there was always a wreck or something, or people were spinning out in front of me. So I kind of just rode around and made sure that the car was in one piece for next year, and just try and get some some seat time, really.
Yeah, so all in all, successful first Super Dirt week.
Yeah, I really can't complain. I think right now it's not so much sour, but I wish we had a little bit better showing in the big block race. But I'm sure I'm going to look back on it in 6 months and be like, wow, we timed in basically top six for both races out of 80 race cars and showed speed all week. And I really just can't thank everybody who supports me.
Yeah, it was an awesome run to see. I was really happy about your you end in the season on a bit of a stronger note because it's been a weird season for you. You've faced some adversity that not many young drivers would ever have to face. Being almost chased away from your home track in some ways, having the internet speculate, talk about your team, and getting wrapped up in some tire drama that has been much publicized on social media. We've talked about it on this podcast, but it's got to be almost that much sweeter to have this great run to end the year after some of the things that you've had to deal with in this season.
Absolutely. I really think that that Super Dirt Week really just showed how much better you can get when you race against the top guys every single week. And by no means is Merrittville lacking competition, because there's one week you can go in there and finish third and think you got something rolling, and then the next week you finish seventh, right? Like,
Yep.
I don't think that there's really any guys, probably besides Matt Shepard, that can roll into Merrittville and come out of there with a top five and be happy. Like, it is a tough racetrack.
Yeah. So, do you want to talk about tire stuff or no? Just talk.
It don't bother me. There's no hard feelings. When it all happened and came about, obviously, us three, Gary, Matt, and I, were in shock, because people are going to have their opinions and people can point fingers, but the only people that really know what went on and what really happened are Matt, Gary, and I, and all of our teams and all that. And like I said, people are going to still believe that, we were cheating. And I really feel bad for Matt the most. And, people might be surprised by that, but as much as we are competitors on and off the track, I feel like, we have a pretty good relationship. And for somebody to, get their career kind of put in jeopardy for a little while over something like that is just, it's nonsense. There's no fingers to point. There's no bad blood or no hard relationships on our end of the spectrum. Um, you know, I get asked all the time at the racetrack, be like, oh, I bet you Bicknell is really, going through hard times right now and relationships aren't good. There's no hard feelings at all. Everybody at Bicknell's, and both of you will know because you work here, everybody still talks. It's not like we're on an island. There was a little bit of a time where, people were kind of in hot water and nobody really knew what was going on, but it's the same old Bicknell. We're still building X amount of race cars a year. We're still building speed, and we're still going to bring the best products to the market that we can bring.
Yep. I love the way you answered that.
That was well said. That was very impressive.
He is the man. I love
like
this kid.
that. That was, as the media person here, who I swear, if I ever have to launch a second career, I'm just going to teach PR to modified racers. I don't know if I have to teach you anything, because that was very well handled, Dalton, I got to say. And the one thing that you kind of have alluded to, and I think, you mentioned Matt, you mentioned yourself, getting out on the road might end up being one of the best things for you. Like, we were talking the last time you were on the show, we were talking about your big breakthrough modified win at Merrittville. I feel like the next time we're going to be having you on the show is because you're going to be breaking through at somewhere like Fulton, or you're going to be breaking through in the Super Dirt Car Series or the 358 Tour, whatever it is, whatever you have in up the sleeve and whatever cards are in the future for you. You mentioned it, getting out on the road is going to be a huge development moment for you in your career.
I agree. I think the last time I was on here, I'm sure I told you that I wanted to be out on the road more. So maybe that whole deal was, good in the long run. It's tough because, we've gone to so many different racetracks, and, one week we show some speed and some momentum, and then the next week we look like we've never raced before. And that's just because lack of experience, right? I still have a full-time job. I still got to show up to work. I mean, I can play hockey sometimes and go racing, but I'm not like some other guys that can race, 60 times a year. I'd love to do that, but it's not really in our budget, and I can't really do that just being at my age. So I think going on the road and traveling more just proves, like this week, what we can really do and what we can really show that, we can still run with the big guys and definitely show speed wherever we go.
Yep, you basically took the words out of my mouth. It was almost a blessing in disguise because the big block ride was coming eventually, and that basically just gave you an opportunity to do a bunch more big block starts. And which led to, let's talk about this as well. You had like that 7th place run at the Gerald Harris Memorial. That's like your best big block run so far.
Yeah, I would say that would be my claim to fame right now. We went there on the Friday night and test, and we were okay, had some speed, and then Saturday in the heat race looked like we never raced before. Not because of the car or anything setup wise, just lack of experience. Really, only being there a couple times, and they do a funny. Heat race deal there. It's like a 20-lap heat race, so it's not like a typical night, so it's all draw. So if you draw bad, it's tough to work your way through the field. So made our way in through the last chance showdown, started 22nd, and just eventually started rolling pretty good, and kind of like Oswego, kind of found a line that people weren't running, and then made our way up to 7th, and then was passing for 5th past Jordan McCready, and then the right rear tire kind of sealed up, but that's the story of my life. I feel like, anytime I get a good run, a tire pops or something like that. So whatever, hopefully next year we can have a little bit better luck.
You will.
Definitely. Dalton, thanks so much for coming on and being a part of the show. Thanks for your time tonight, and keep at it at BRP. Keep it up in the off season, and can't wait to see what 2024 brings for you and the 3RS team.
Well, I appreciate it. I do want to do something quick. I feel like all week, every time I got interviewed, I got cut off short. I never actually thanked anybody, and I hate not thanking anybody because it's truly not just me, it's everybody behind me, so I really can't thank my family enough. Obviously, my dad, my grandpa, my grandma, my mom, my brothers, my other side of my family, everybody over there, and truly all my great product sponsors, Transport Sales and Service, Bicknell Racing Products, Integra Shocks, Swift Springs, Platinum Plumbing, Transaxle, Total Power, Kenny, Burt, DMI, Kirky Seats, Hoosier Racing Tire, VP Fuels, Kevlar Racing Engines, and DSC Racing Engines. They build great horsepower, and I really just can't thank everybody enough. I know I'm probably missing somebody. I hope I'm not. I think I almost got everybody down, but I really can't thank everybody enough. If it wasn't for them, then we wouldn't be able to do what we do every single night. So,
Beauty.
Well done, well said. Dalton Slack on the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast. And the checkered is out on another episode of the Southern Ontario Dirt Show presented by Ohsweken Speedway and Bicknell Racing Products. Like what you hear, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Connect with us on Facebook at Southern Ontario Dirt Show, or find us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at SODS_pod. Have a question for the show? Email us, southernontariodirtshow@gmail.com. Thanks for supporting local racing in Southern Ontario, and we'll see you at the track.